Okay, all right. All right, so, Marnie, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Mark Gregg.
Here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin.
Here.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal. Yes. Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Here.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Did you see?
Hi, Elizabeth.
All right, we're going to say the pledge, and we'll have a quick prayer, and we'll get rolling here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, have a quick prayer and we'll get rolling here. Thank you, Lord, for this awesome day today. We just ask your blessing over this meeting tonight. We ask that you would bless all that are in attendance, those that are watching on Zoom, and please, Lord, lead and guide and direct each of us, council members, to do the best we can do for our community. And we thank you again for this beautiful day, and we ask all this in your precious name, amen.
Amen.
All right, council, any additions, requests, or emergency deletions?
I have one.
Okay.
Because Elizabeth, hi Elizabeth, isn't here tonight, I would like, and I talked to John and Kimberly about moving the quasi-judicials until she was here, so the five of us could all weigh in on something extremely important, and wait till she's back. And I have their blessing, but I need you guys to say okay as well.
Hey, John. Okay, Elizabeth can't vote on Zoom quasi, right?
Correct. She could vote on a motion to continue, which is what I understand this to be, but she would not be, under our rules, anyone who's attending remotely is not able to participate in quasi-judicial items.
Okay, okay.
Is that reserved just for the quasi?
Correct. So if it's the non-quasi-judicial items, anyone attending remotely can participate and vote fully, yes.
Right.
As long as we have a physical quorum present for the council meeting.
Right.
You okay, Henry?
Yes.
Okay, Mark, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with it. However, this is kind of a surprise. I learned about this a few hours ago, and the applicant is here. So I think as a courtesy to the applicant, we should find out if we're going to move this. Number one, if there's an advertising requirement, that should be borne by the village and not the applicant, a re-advertising requirement. And then we should check and see if the applicant's available at whatever meeting this is going to come at. I just think that's a courtesy, that's all.
Okay.
And I would say we can figure out, if we figure out the date that we're going to move it to, we can announce the date, time, and location. And I'm fairly certain that will cover the advertising issues.
Okay.
But I think that it would be prudent as part of the motion that we specify date, time, and location of what the council meeting would be.
What about the April meeting?
What's the April
Yeah,
meeting?
it would be moved to the meeting on April 11th at 5:30 here at the community center at Founders Park.
Is that a Thursday?
That's the Thursday meeting, yes.
Very good. I want to see if the applicant's okay with that.
Mark, you're missing this. That might be why
It
you're.
was gone when I walked in. I'm going to have to go. Oh. Thought I was going bare. Yes, okay, pardon me, there were,
Okay, but you said you're not voting on any of them.
These are tabs, I think you're talking about tabs E,
The Biscayne Bay one, Boulevard one too?
E through H. Yeah. Yeah, it's just E through H.
You're fine.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hey, Elizabeth, are you okay with what we're doing here?
Yeah, thank you, that's fine.
Okay, I want to make sure.
And
I guess I'm the only quasi-judicial one. Yeah, April 8th will work for me.
It was the 11th.
Oh, April 11th, all right. Yeah, I guess that works if that's what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Could we possibly do it on the 9th?
What's
I
the-
mean, we have a meeting on the 9th and the 11th, right?
Yeah, I mean, we usually do land use stuff on date certain on 11th, but if you all prefer to move it to the 9th, we could do it the 9th as well. It doesn't matter.
In favor of the 9th myself.
Okay, okay. Are you okay with that, Jocelyn, the 9th?
Sooner the better,
It's a
that'd
Tuesday
be
instead of
lovely.
a Thursday.
Yes, that'd work great for me, thank you.
And lastly, the advertising requirement, how would we address that?
Yeah, I think that by doing it this way under the state statute, it would cover the need to re-advertise. I will reconfirm, but if you would like, just in the event that it doesn't, I would recommend that if you all want the village to cover it, we make that as part of the motion, and then that way, if there's no need to re-advertise it, it wouldn't matter. Yeah.
Can we just also confirm that includes posting and mailing
Yep.
notices? Thank you.
So do we
Yes,
need to vote? John, do we need to just take a quick vote? Get Marnie call the roll and take a vote?
Yeah, well, and probably since we've had some discussion, it might be best to have a clean motion on it.
Okay.
So I don't know, Sharon, if you wanted to make that motion for tabs E through H.
Okay, tabs, I make a motion, tabs E through H, we move it till April the 9th meeting. And the fees be covered, what? Oh, at 5:30, here in this building, and the fees be covered by us, correct?
That's correct.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so Marnie, we have a motion and a second. Could you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal,
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Gregg,
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin,
Yes.
and Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0.
Just to make sure that the public's aware, so tabs E through H will now have been continued to the April 9th meeting, which is scheduled to start at 5:30 here at the Community Center in Founders Park.
Okay. And Jennifer, is it
Thank
okay?
you.
I mean, could we put this in the beginning of the agenda so we can get it done?
It's your agenda, so you can reorder it any way you'd like. I would have to put it under quasi judicial items, but if you'd like to move those up, we're happy to do that.
Okay, all right, okay, we'll talk about it. We got a while, so. Okay, all right.
Have a good night,
Yep.
guys, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, so we're going to move, anything else, Mark? Henry, anything else? Okay, so we're going to move on to reports and presentations and announcements, and Deb is going to come on up and give us a report on the LPA.
Good evening. I'm Deb Gillis. I'm chair of the LPA, and I have kind of two reports, but I'm going to roll it all into one. I think you've been sent the information for both, but I'm kind of rolling this into one. So we had in January, on January the 8th, we had all 7 members present. We had about 10 items on our agenda. The first item was an administrative procedure adding a new subsection for review for imposed development conditions. This would allow an applicant to challenge the conditions that were imposed if they believe the conditions were not a nexus to legitimate public use, or if they were not proportional, to the impact on their development. This was approved by the LPA as 7-0 as presented. The second item on our agenda was an allocation of BPAS awards that have expired. The code addresses the allocations the code addresses if allocation permits are not picked up, that it reverts back to the village. The current code does not address is if an allocation permit is picked up and paid for, and then it was allowed to expire by no development continuing on. This ordinance would take back that permit allocation when it expires. This affected, we asked a couple of questions, this affected 5 properties between 2017 to 2022. The LPA would recommend that this ordinance not be retroactive, and it would start with any new permits allocations issued, and that a statement be provided that eventually, if the permit is allowed to expire, that the village would capture it back. In addition, we would recommend that if this goes forward, that a concentrated effort be made to reach out to the 5 allocations that are in that category and determine the reason why they were allowed to expire and maybe offer them a vested determination. They would also have to comply to any new building codes that had been put in place since all that happened. Those 5s would also be taken back by the village if they were not renewed. That was approved by the LPA on a 6-to-1 vote with the recommendations. The remainder of the items that we had that night were postponed and moved to our March 8th meeting due to advertising errors, so I'll cover that now. That's our second meeting. I'm not going to finish out that first report that you got. Excuse me. So at the second meeting on March the 8th, we also had 7 members present, and once again, we had about 10 items in front of us. The first item on the agenda, most of these are double items. There are 2. So the first 2 items that were on our agenda was a HVS 82 request for a flume and a zone change. There was a request to change the flume status from residential conservation to mixed use and from native residential to highway commercial zoning. The property was zoned at the county as suburban residential, which would allow some commercial use. There was a commercial building built, which was a greenhouse. When the village incorporated, it was assigned a flume of residential conservation and a zoning of native residential, which made the building legal but non-conforming. We, as the LPA, recommend that this be changed to a conforming flume of mixed use and highway commercial zoning. There is a restrictive covenant on the property that protects the hammock. That was approved, the flume and the mixed use was approved to those, I'm sorry, the flume was approved to mixed use and the zoning was approved to highway commercial in a 5-2 vote as presented. The next items, our third and fourth items was the Soldier and South property, which also requested a flume and a zoning change. These items were tabled due to another advertising error, and we will hear them in April. Items 5 and 6 was the Island Community Church flume and zoning change. Applicant requested a flume change from public service to mixed use and a zoning change from public use to highway commercial. The property historically was a theater. The flume and the zone was changed when the village incorporated. This is an upzoning, but the property is fully developed and was considered to be commercial when it was at the county before our incorporation. The current property owner was never made aware of the flume and zoning changes personally, directly. The LPA approved the flume to mixed use and the zoning to highway commercial in a 6-0 with 1 abstaining. Then we had 4 items on our agenda that there was 2, they're identical. So we took all 4 items the same, so it was our 7, 8, 9, and 10. Actually, it's your, I forget the letters number, it's the ones that you just
E to H.
push. E to H, it's those items. The applicant is requesting a flume change from residential medium to mixed use, Winley Key mixed use area 2 for 2 homes that are side by side next to Hog Heaven. This sub-area flume allows only to use the vacation rental and not any of the other upzonings that would come with mixed use. The current zoning of residential single-family district, the applicant is requesting to highway commercial. They are not inside a residential zoning community. The LPA approved the flume for both properties, the Winley Cove and the Winley Isle, to the Winley Key Mixed Use Area 2. And the LPA also approved the zoning for both properties of the Winley Cove and the Winley Isles to highway commercial. Both of those were in a 5-2 vote. Is there any questions? Nope. All right. I'll be here if you have questions.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, I think we're going to move on to public comment. Marnie, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
Yes, we do. We have Joe Wishmeyer, Ben Cadenhead, and Deb Gillis.
Okay, and this is general public comment, all right?
Correct.
Yes, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. Mr. Mayor and Council, I wanted to speak on this item on Tuesday, but somehow it mysteriously got moved to a consent agenda from the regular agenda at the last minute. It was an amendment to keep Kimberly Matthews for one more month to act as advisor to council and new manager. Really? With all the years of experience on this council, I am sure that none of you need an advisor. Council voted 5-0 to hire our new manager, Robert Cole. Council wanted a unanimous vote to show confidence in your choice by keeping an interim manager/advisor for another month at over $20,000 would not demonstrate confidence in your choice. By the way, Ms. Matthews has only worked here for 2 months. In the history of the village, I don't ever remember having an advisor for a new manager, and we've certainly had plenty of those. If Mr. Cole had any questions, he should consult village staff or the attorney. That's what they're there for, to supply useful information. Do not undermine our new manager by creating controversy with an ex-manager looking over his shoulder. Show confidence and let Mr. Cole do the job you hired him for unencumbered. Addressing Mr. Horton's claim the other night that modular homes at the Sun Outdoors should remain tax-free is unconscionable. Florida Statute 553.382, which he pointed out, its purpose was stated to expand the availability of affordable housing in the state. Legoland is not affordable housing. If Mr. Horton would have continued to do more research, he would have found Florida Statute 320-015 states, any prefabbed or modular housing unit or portion thereof not manufactured upon an integral chassis or undercarriage for travel over the highways shall be taxed as real property once it is permanently affixed to real property. The school district, law enforcement, mosquito control, fire stations, general fund, and village overall, just to name a few, are not getting their fair share of tax dollars. As a taxpayer, I'm appalled. I resent being referred to as a malcontent just because I am trying to do the right thing for our schools and our village. Again, if you wanted to look that up, that would be Florida Statute 320.015. Thank you.
Okay, 320.015? Okay.
320.015.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anybody else, Marnie?
Yes, Van Cadenhead is next, followed by Deb Gillis.
Okay. Van, come on. We want to go home.
It's a short time. Well, I was trying to be polite and let the lady go first, but that's okay. I'm ready.
I'm surprised you didn't wear green today, man.
It's not St. Patrick's Day yet.
Okay. Go ahead, Van.
I'd like to welcome for the first night in the chair, Mr. Cole. And strangely enough, I want to talk about the last night in the chair from the one that sat in that chair before, Mr. Yates. Now, in July, we had a meeting in this room that was a 3-2 vote that voted not to continue Mr. Yates in his management position. I was happy with it, and a lot of the people in the village were happy with it because I don't think Mr. Yates was doing us very much good. He was doing some people a lot of good. And that really bothers me. And I want to point out that at that meeting, we had 27 on Marnie McGrath stationery from the village at village expense, 27 emails pro Ted's team that were presented and laid up on the table here. There were 0 against Ted. There was 0 representation, which has led me to say that it was bias on the dais. And I certainly believe that that was the case. Whereas there were 3 people up there on the council, the 2 ladies and Mr. Rosenthal, that voted against those 27 emails, although they were overwhelmingly in favor of Ted's team. And I would say that those people who wrote those 27 emails, there's a list of them, and they can be found, and I think they should be researched by the voters of Islamorada to see exactly who those 27 people were that sent in those pro-Ted emails. Because those people were not backing up the 3 council people that voted against him, and there is a lawsuit against Ted Yates at this particular time by Dan Galizio and also certain members of the village here that show that he was not working in the best faith of the people of Islamorada. So I think that people, before they vote, they should find out who those 27 people were and what 27 organizations. And just real quick, one of them was the Chamber of Commerce, one of them was the TDC, and the other one was the Rotary. Okay, they were all pro-Ted, and Ted was all wrong. And Ted has been proven to be all wrong. And the fact that these people, I'm wrap it. Let me wrap it up, will you?
Please.
Okay, so I'm just asking the people of Islamorada and this council to recognize that those 27 emails do not represent Islamorada. The citizens of Islamorada were unrepresented except by the 3 people that voted to get rid of him. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Van. Who's next, Marnie? Oh, Deb Gillis?
Deb Gillis.
Deb Gillis, Islamorada. I just wanted to welcome Mr. Cole to his first night on the job, and we're a contentious little community, but we're a very nice little community at the same time. Thank you, sir.
Marnie, we have any other public comment?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay, all right. With that being said, public comment is now closed. Council, you know, we all have I've already welcomed Mr. Cole here today. And he got to see some nice part of town today, very relaxing, and, you know, we had a very good time. So, anyways, he's ready to get rolling and ready to go to work. Got his sleeves rolled up, and he even said he'd go walk with me at 6 o'clock in the morning if I wanted him to. So go do 20,000 steps in the morning. So anyways, we're going to move on then real quick to Mayor Council Communications. Anybody have anything? We don't have anything scheduled.
Well, I have something. It came up yesterday or the day before. If this is an inappropriate time to say this, I'll do it a different time. But we're coming up on the annual anniversary where we review or vote on our LPA members.
Okay.
I believe that's coming in May, if that sounds right. And so I was looking at that, and I wanted to see who was on the LPA. And I'd called the village clerk, and I spoke with Stephanie there, and I'd asked, you know, who appointed who and all that sort of a thing. She couldn't tell me. And she said that, you know, as of last May, we had kind of had that all sorted out, but we changed things afterwards, and I remember doing it, but I don't remember what we concluded on. But based upon the changes that were made, they were unable to tell us, you know, are there staggered terms or who appointed who, or, you know, when someone's term would expire. So that's coming up. That would be May, so we have some time to look at it. So if it's appropriate now, I'd just like to see if there's some consent with the council here to ask the staff to see what the story is with the clerk's office. And I mean, I'm not saying with the clerk's office, but with the LPA status, who appointed who, or who's coming up for a reappointment, or whose term is there, so that we can act accordingly when that event occurs in May.
Okay.
I'll answer that for you if you don't remember. They applied, and it's supposed to be every year they reapply, and it is voted on. We vote for seven.
5 of us voted.
The 5 of us voted for 7, and the 7 top people got on the LPA.
Well, when you go to the section of the code that authorizes the LPA and you read, what their powers are and how they govern themselves, it says that they're 2-year terms and they're staggered. So maybe that is maybe that's been superseded, but if it hasn't, it's in conflict with what we did, and that's where I got confused. And I think that's the same issue that the staff has. There seemed to be something that was difficult for them to sort it out. So I may be part of that. Could be an age-related error. That's a lot of those in my life these days. So if I could find out from the staff where we're at on that and confirm the status of things as far as what our responsibility is going to be, if any, in May.
Okay. Mr. Quick, can you help us out with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll work with staff. I mean, as you all recall, we revamped the way that boards were appointed, so there wouldn't be each individual on the LPA, there wouldn't be a delineation as to who appointed who. It was appointed by the majority of the council. Councilmember Gregg, though, is correct about that it reads it's a 2-year term that are staggered. So I'm not sure. We'll have to look back at the paperwork as to which ones received 1-year terms, which one received 2-year. I'm just not sure about that process. But we'll work with. I'll work with Rob, and we'll figure out exactly which ones are coming up, because obviously there had to be, some of them got 1 year to begin with in order to start the staggering. So I'll work with Rob, and we'll confirm, and we will come back.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to say something. This isn't really, I know I don't have anything on here, but I want to say that I want to thank Kimberly for coming and helping us. And just so the public knows, she has 32 years of public service. She used to be the head of Miami-Dade County's whole entire library system. I don't know how many employees they have, but I've been to some of the things in Miami with the school board and things by some of my other mayor friends, and invited me to some different coastal resiliency things. But I'd also like to say that let the public know that she is the head strategic planner for Monroe County currently right now. So we were highly blessed for Roman and the 5 county commissioners to even share her with us for a time that we had a need. So Kimberly, I want to personally thank you for your time, okay? And if anybody else, if you have anything you want to say, go ahead.
I would just weigh in. Thank you for getting us to this point so that Mr. Cole can step up and you can step down. And thank you for enduring us and all of our challenges, and I'll just leave it at that. And I don't know how we would have gotten through that without you. So you thank you for getting us here. Appreciate that.
Ditto.
Yeah. And I want to say thanks to Mr. Cole, because Kimberly was with Mr. Cole. So was John Quick today when I was with them, and we had a great meeting. And, for Mr. Cole, she's here. She knows stuff. She knows many different things, and it was very good to have you there. And I think Mr. Cole appreciated that we're trying to get him acclimated and up to speed quickly, and help him in any way that we can. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much. You have all been so incredibly gracious while I've been here. It's been my pleasure. And to answer your question, 600 plus people in Miami-Dade and a $70+ million budget. So that for that. And but it has really been my pleasure. You are so fabulous. You have such amazing things going on here, and I think Mr. Cole is going to just take it and run with it. So I wish you all the best, and on behalf of myself and Monroe County, we've tried to be, as Roman always says, we're a family. And so we were here to help out, and I'm glad to have been a part of that. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think we also owe a debt of gratitude to the entire Monroe County Commission.
Yeah.
And to Roman. They put this together. They brought it to us. They invented this. They kind of shepherded us along, you know.
Well, I was going to say one more thing, and I'd like for you to talk, Mr. Cole, if you would. But I'd like to say that it's already been extended. If Mr. Cole needs any help, that they are there. If he has any questions about things, that he is more than welcome to talk to any of the 5 commissioners or Roman or Kimberly. You know, they're here to help us. So would you like to say a few things?
Sure, Mayor. Briefly, I'd like to recognize the county in particular for the level of collaboration and support that they've displayed with one of their member communities. In my 30 or so years, a little bit less than 30, of municipal experience, it's highly unusual for a county government to extend that kind of support. And I think it's really helped the village in terms of bridging that gap. And I appreciate that we've had such a highly professional person step in and really help keep things moving while the village continued its search for a village manager. So thank you very much, Kimberly. Thank you, Roman, if you're out there listening somewhere. And thank you, County Commission, for displaying a model example of how counties and municipalities can help one another in particularly their times of need.
Hey, I have one other question. I just want to ask about your better half. How is she getting acclimated? She loves it here, right?
Oh, absolutely. My wife, her name is Olga, and she's really enjoying the Keys. One of the things that we thought she'd do here during our initial period was just explore, get out and walk and see the community, and then she'll be looking probably for volunteer opportunities and such. But she texted me yesterday a picture of a stingray that she saw on her walk. She had all kinds of both native and non-native lizards she was taking pictures of, and flowers, you know, orchids. So these are all things that are unusual for us in our life experience for the most part, despite us having spent some time in advance of the hiring process, a month plus here in Key Largo and Isla Mirada and places like that. So again, she's loving it. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to then village attorney, village manager communications. We don't have anything scheduled. And Mr. Cole, Mr. Quick.
Nothing from me other than to welcome Rob, and you know that I look forward to working with him, and thank Kimberly as well, and everybody at the county. It's been wonderful working with everybody, and you know, just want to share the sentiments that the council has shared as well.
Thank you. Rob?
I don't have any additional manager comments tonight on our regular meetings on a moving forward basis. I'm going to be trying to collect information from our department heads, share important updates with the community that we believe are helpful and useful to them in the conduct of their daily activities, as well as other, you know, highlights that are worthy of sharing with the council. So I look forward to doing that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to resolutions here. So we're on tab A.
Tab B.
Tab B, I'm sorry. Okay.
Tab B.
I'm sorry. I looked at A, it's A, and then it is tab B. Okay, John.
It's a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, approving residential building permit allocation system rankings and awarding affordable residential building permit allocations for Q4 of 2023 and providing for an effective date.
Jennifer?
Thank you, Council. Jennifer DeBobrian, Planning Director, here this evening for your Q4 2023 Affordable Building Permit Allocation Award. Pursuant to Section 30-475 of the Village Code, the Village Council of Isla Mirada is required to take action after reviewing building permit allocation system evaluation report. Pursuant to Resolution 22-11-131, adopted on November 17, 2022, 8 affordable allocations were made available for 2023 through the Village BPAS. Pursuant to Resolution 23-01-04 and adopted on January 19, 2023 by the Village Council, they approved 1 affordable residential allocation for Q4 of 2022, effectively reducing the available allocations for 23 to 7. Resolution 23-04-39, adopted on April 11, 23 by Village Council, approved 3 affordable residential allocations for Q1 23. Resolution 23-11-134, adopted on November 9, 23 by Village Council, approved 1 affordable residential allocation for Q3 of 2023, effectively reducing the available allocations for 23 to 2. At the close of quarter 2024, there were 2 applications consisting of 10 allocations for affordable residential BPAS allocations in the queue awaiting award. The affordable residential applications have been evaluated, scored, and ranked according to the criteria outlined in the Village Code, Section 30-476. The application recommended for approval is listed below. Permit number PRSFA 2021-01194 with 14 points, submitted by Mark Gregg on December 29, 2023 at 8:29 a.m. for parcel ID 004118900-000000. The proposed construction requires 2 affordable allocations. If approved as recommended, there is no additional impact to the budget other than it would increase the village's ad valorem tax revenue in future fiscal years, and staff impact would be limited to processing the associated development permit. This time, staff recommends that the Village Council adopt the proposed resolution, thereby approving the residential BPAS award ranking and awarding 2 affordable residential permits for quarter 4 of 2023. I'm available to answer any questions if you have any.
Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor, obviously this affects me personally. It is a conflict of interest for me to vote on that, so I am not going to participate in the vote. I may like to be on standby to participate in the discussion, which I'm allowed to, and of course available for any questions. And I have my conflict form that I will give to the clerk before we leave tonight.
Okay, thank you. Henry?
I'm listening.
Okay, all right.
I guess it falls on me, huh? No, I forget, she's behind me. I would like to know the definition of where affordables can be built in our village, where they're allowed and where they're not allowed, in a short synopsis. You don't have to.
Well, that's a larger question, I think, than a short synopsis. I can tell you in this residential zoning district, multifamily attached or detached single-family deed restricted affordable housing of up to 4 dwelling units are allowed on lots fronting on US 1.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. What is your definition of non-conforming? I've done some homework on non-conforming, commercial non-conforming, duplexes. We're pretty much the only people who use the term non-conforming. A lot of people don't recognize it. But when you say something is non-conforming, to me that means you're accepting what they are, but you're saying they're not in compliance with what there is now. Is that sort of a good way to say it?
Say that again. I think I'm.
Well, when you say something's non-conforming, but you recognize, well, let's take a piece of property that was zoned non-conforming commercial, and you're acknowledging it's commercial, correct? But you're saying it doesn't conform with the zoning nowadays. Is that right?
I guess I'm not sure. I'd tell you what I understand non-conforming to be, and maybe that will answer your question better. Okay.
Yes.
So non-conforming is, and just it may not be used in other areas in Florida, but non-conforming is a term used nationwide in land use and planning applications, just for clarity. But non-conforming is a term used when something does not conform to the current code or ordinances as approved in the jurisdiction in which you live. So if something is a pre-existing non-conforming use or structure, would be something that existed prior to the adoption of the code or ordinance, and it's allowed to continue to exist because it pre-existed the code or ordinance and it's non-conforming. Just non-conforming by itself is something that does not conform to the existing code and ordinance.
Well, I guess the way I worded it didn't come out properly and what I'm trying to convey is that if something is deemed non-conforming and then you have the ability to go back down the road and say, I was this, so I can get my zoning back, is that right? I guess I'm confusing you. I have a question why our humble councilman here has an application in for a non-conforming duplex in 2021 that is still on the portal now.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes.
It's a long story, so I'm going to try to keep it short. I may leave out something unintentionally. And Buddy can weigh in on this too. This is next door to Buddy's house, and Buddy knows as much, if not more, about the history of this property as I do. When I purchased the property in 2015, it was set up as a duplex. There are 2 units. I see you shaking your head. I don't think you've ever been in there.
Yes, I have. I almost bought it for a clinic for our rescue of that house.
Well, it has 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms, and 2 living areas. And that, in short terms, is a definition of a duplex. And so I wanted to remodel that. I had my father living in there when he was alive. My brother was taking care of him, and he lived in the other section. And so in 2016, I applied to the village for confirmation. I was turned down. I came to the village council on an appeal. I was turned down because the aerial photograph that I used did not show how many units were inside of the building. And I tried to explain that aerial photographs do not show a 3-dimensional interior view. And so I decided not to appeal that further. And then later on, the county came in and changed their description of the property from single family to duplex. And it still shows that way on the property record card today on the drawing for the property. After that, I applied for permits to put in connect to the sewer, and then my fence blew down in the hurricane, so I applied for a permit to put it back. And when I did so, I put on there that it was a duplex as it was shown on the property record card, and I received a permit from the village to put up a fence on a duplex. So that is kind of how that got to where it's at today. So I came back this is on this property. It relates to another property. I came back later for a remodeling permit because the house or the property was built in 1957, and it is almost all original. It is in terrible condition. So I wanted to remodel the interior. Under our code, the definition of development does not include interior renovations that don't change the use of the property. So that means, in my way of thinking, that it did not require a planning review, and it was a non-conforming use. So I got into a dispute with the planning director at that time, and we went around and around and around on that. But prior to that, I had filed an application for a pre-application conference letter with the village to see if it was fronting on US 1. And I received a positive answer. Yes, it was. So based upon that, I don't know, I see you doubting that, but I have it if you'd like to see it.
Well, how can you make the old road US 1?
Well, it's a gray area. I grant you that. But the way that I did it is I went before the village council and I asked them about it when I had an appeal on a different property. And that was on Windley Key.
So you're saying you set a precedence that because you got it done on one property, it should be done when you go to another property?
Well, I'm saying that the village council made the determination that in that case on Windley Key, which is situated nearly exactly like this one, that those properties like this one are fronting on US 1.
I don't agree.
I have the resolution. I have the resolution with me.
I know you have the resolution.
I'm happy to show it to you and read it to you.
I'm not trying to dispute anything. What this village has suffered from for years is people skimming just on the surface of what's right and what's wrong. And I have a problem that, listen, I'd like to say I'm 25 years old, a cute little blonde, but I'm not. And that is not US 1, it's the old road, and I have a problem with that.
Well, you will have to take that up with the council that voted 5-0 to approve
But it's
that.
not in our code. How can you do one piece of property that's not this piece of property and say it carries over to this property? That's what I'm having a problem with.
The conditions are the same.
According to who?
The village council.
What village council? Not this one.
One that voted on
But
it.
that was on a different piece of property. Let me quote Jennifer. We treat each piece of property differently. You're talking about a piece of property that where I heard you brought in a map that showed where the old road ends, and you're talking about the buildings that were yours, that are now Jocelyn's, and that was US 1. Well, where this is right here is clearly the old road.
Well,
It's
when-
not the same, and I'm sorry, I think it should be in our code, and I think we should have a say in this, because when you set a precedence, it should cover all kinds of stuff, not just pick and choose what carries on. I have an issue with
When there's a term in the code that's not defined, it requires interpretation.
And we're back to that
And
skirting the truth.
So I asked the planning staff to initially to interpret that, and it came back negative. I didn't like that. So I appealed that, and the council agreed with me 5-0.
That it goes for everything, not just,
It didn't say that. I didn't say that either. It said, well, I'm going to read it to you, and you can put your own spin on it or not. Bear with me one moment. So here's the resolution granting my appeal. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The issue in this case was whether the parcel in question to be fronting on US 1 for affordable housing on the appellate's property, and they list the addresses, legally described as, and then they give the legal description. When they got to the section about finding of facts, it says the director, meaning the planning director's interpretation of the code, is not supported by the facts presented. And it went on to say that in the findings of fact, that the appeal has been processed in accordance with the law, and it was granted in my favor.
and that's the other piece of property. And so you're opening up a can of worms where everybody who has something on the old road but nothing built in front of them can now do the same thing. Am I correct here, or am I?
That is not correct. It's done on a case-by-case basis.
Well,
and
you're just lumping yours in with the one down in Windley Key, aren't you?
But Mark, was that one that you did down there, wasn't that, because I remember that, but it was 8 affordable units, right?
Wait a minute. This got all mixed up by Van at the LPA on Monday night.
Okay.
Those two lots are today and were then zoned single-family, R1. And I thought that because if they were to be considered fronting on US 1, then they were okay to be used for affordable housing in accordance with the provision that Jennifer read to you a few moments ago. So I wanted to do an affordable, I started in 2017. So I wanted to do affordable housing project to put 8 one-bedroom apartments between the two lots. And so that's when I went to do that. By the time I got finished with all of that, and I was able to get the cost down and some plans together, the cost of that had gone up so high that I would have been upside down on my investment. I would need a subsidy from the government or a loan or a gift or something. In other words, it was not financially feasible. And so after that, I just kind of threw up my hands and said, well, I guess I'll just get a permit for a single family there. When I went in to clear the invasive exotics on the property, because it had a jungle, there were 2 old house foundations, one on each property, that in my research indicated that they were destroyed probably in Hurricane Donna in 1960. I asked the staff to evaluate that as a legally established dwelling unit. They denied that. I appealed that, but before it went to a hearing, I had meetings with them and I agreed with their position and I withdrew that. I later went back in on each lot and I filed an application for a B-Pass for a single family unit. And I got those, and it took quite a long time to do that. And so at that point, the cost for construction of a single family had also gone up, and I didn't want to go through that process. I'm not getting a bank loan, so I sold them to Jocelyn. And that's how we got to where we're at today. But in the process of that, we had that appeal, and that's where the determination from the village council was made that those properties were fronting on US 1. They had the road that you would call the old road in front of it. It has a street address the street address thing is a bit of a misnomer because that's assigned by Sheila in the building department for purposes of 911 calls and things of that nature. The village doesn't own it, I can tell you that, but that doesn't necessarily, I have to say, that doesn't necessarily make it US 1 or Old Highway on any of those roads. That's really a safety function and not an ownership of the road function. So I don't know if I answered all of the questions, but all I'm trying to do, we're kind of getting off in the weeds. I have a strong sense that this is all about me and not about the project, And that's okay. I'm kind of used to that by now.
That's not fair, Mark. Come
I'm not saying that to
about-
you. That's
It's not
about,
you. It's about finally trying to fix what has been so wrong in this village, and that's the little loopholes that keep being found here, and I'm tired
well,
of it.
there was no loophole to be found.
To me, there is, because that is the old road.
Well, I think
That's
you
the old
should
road.
understand what the village council does.
But
They
that's the village
interpret,
council for that piece of property,
they
not this
interpreted
one.
the law on the term, and they made that call.
All right, let somebody else talk.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you want to talk, chime in?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for
Sorry.
letting me chime in this Zoom situation. So is it? I think your concern, Sharon, is that to take the determination from the two properties that Jocelyn was just has built on, and take that determination and put it on, use it as a blanket determination for any property that's fronting US 1 to do whatever anyone wants is concerning. So is it a stretch, Mark, to well, I guess maybe it's Jennifer, to bring that component back to have a decision made on this particular property and separate it from the fact that then yes, let's determine that that we are in agreement that on this particular property, in this case, we would acknowledge this as a facing US 1, and therefore we can allow this affordable housing to be built. Because I understand your concern, Sharon. I understand your concern.
I just want to point out, firstly, Jennifer did not make this determination. So what happened is I had asked for a pre-application conference letter, and I received a letter back from the planning director at that time that agreed that this property was fronting on US 1, and I could apply for affordable housing on this property exactly the way that Jennifer read that. She was merely following a decision.
Yes.
If there's going to be some,
I remember being in that meeting actually oddly when that decision was made, but that determination went with that property. If I'm not mistaken, it didn't mean that we're now referring to that decision for any other property that is fronting US 1 in this scenario. So I mean for what is that? I don't know, transparency purposes, is there any, would that make everyone feel better if we had that conversation again on this property?
I don't know how much more transparent
we're all
it
about
could have
affordable
been.
housing.
I went by all the rules. I filed every application. I got it all in writing. I had it approved by the village council and by the planning director twice. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. You know, everybody says I find loopholes and edges in the law. I follow what it says. And when it comes back my way, if you don't like it, take it up with the council.
So just one quick comment. That determination was made. It was a site-specific determination. If I'm not, am I correct on that?
Well,
So it wasn't
I
put
think
into
every
the code
application is a site-specific one, but it gave a general interpretation of an undefined term in the code, the word fronting, and it was applied to that property as it is being applied to this property. And because the conditions, the physical layout, the situation, the two roads, if you want to say that, are abutting, and my front yard, there's nothing in between my front property line and the asphalt edge of US 1. So I'm fronting
totally
on US, the
understand.
same noise, the same wind, the same traffic impacts, the same smoke. If that's not fronting on US 1, I don't know what is.
Look, so just, and I'm going to stop for a second here, but I understand that, Mark. And if I were asked to make a site-specific determination, I would probably agree with that. I mean, it's clear, but I don't want every other property owner who has a similar situation to think that's in a code, because it isn't in the code. So either let's get this into the code and then move forward, or let's have that conversation along with separate, pulled out from this, the award of the allocation. And this is not any kind of accusation. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with bringing forward these site-specific intricacies in bringing that forward into the public conversation. It had nothing to do with you.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Are you done, Elizabeth?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Jennifer, didn't you told me if those, like this specific property, if this property was up the road a mile and it's fronts the highway, they could put 4 units on that property? Is that what you?
Yes, any property that fronts US 1 can put up to 4, let me read it again because I don't want to misspeak and mislead anyone.
4.
Up to 4 dwelling units of deed restricted affordable housing on lots fronting US 1, so it can be up to 4.
But there's
There's lot restrictions as far as size of the lot. So it depends on how big your lot is and how many units you can get. So if you're for 6,000 square feet for 2 attached or detached deed restricted affordable housing dwelling units, 9,000 square feet for 3, or 12,000 square feet for 4.
Okay, so there is a size restriction.
Correct.
That's what I wasn't sure about. Okay, so let's take a minute and open public comment. Marnie, do we have any? Huh? Oh, Henry. Well, we can still, if you want public comment, and then.
I'll wait for public comment.
Okay, let's, Marnie, we have any public comment?
Yes, we have Sue Miller signed up for this.
Okay. We have anybody after Sue?
No, sir.
Okay, I think Van's.
Mayor, I'd like to represent the Alameda Community Alliance. I am on the board there.
Okay, council? Okay, all right. So.
First of all, Sue Miller, Lower Matacumbe. I decided I'd heard all of this discussion about what is fronting US 1, so I decided, I'll just do a Google search on what the word fronting means, and I was amused that it said fronting is a powerful linguistic tool that can add emphasis and creativity, and in this case, it sure has created a lot of creativity. I think that it is clear to me that the hearing that was held on Windley Key was to change an address of 2 properties, site-specific, and so if you're saying that that site-specific approval of the village council should apply, we're going to have a whole lot of addresses at 85301 Overseas Highway, and I think the post office will be really confused. The idea that it was applied for as a duplex is concerning because the property owner had already been told that it was not being recognized as a duplex. And so I don't know why he then, after he was told specifically through a public hearing that it was not identified as a duplex, that he went ahead and applied to change the duplex from market rate to affordable. That was troublesome to me. The fact that you're defining something because there's nothing in front of it, that it changes the frontage. I live on the ocean. I have nothing in front of me until I get to Morocco. Does that mean that I now front on Morocco? I don't think so. I think that argument is just incredibly crazy. I can't even believe that someone would argue that. I think that the fact that this previous council thought that there were going to be 8 affordable homes on those 2 lots made it sound very advisable to say, okay, we'll change your address. We're not changing the frontage of your property. We're changing your address. And so I have a couple other issues about this application. It's confusing to me. You always approve a resolution before each calendar year to determine how you're going to allocate BPAS allocations for non-residential, residential, affordable, whatever. And I went back to all the resolutions that are in our website, and I went back as far as 2019, which is all that's in the website currently. And every year, the fourth quarter allocation is done in December. In 2019, it was done December 12th. In 2020, it was December 17th. In 21, it was December 16th. This application, what is the ending date to apply for BPAS for the fourth quarter? Why did we award in the past, always award in the middle of December for the fourth quarter? And here we are in March, approving a fourth quarter allocation for last year that wasn't applied till the very end of December. So I don't know why this is a fourth quarter of 2023 award at all. And then why wasn't the fourth quarter even in the annual resolution telling how many allocations would be awarded each quarter? I think there is a solution to this problem. I think that as I read the code, if you're going to allocate residential allocations for a property, you can't exceed the density that's allowed for the property being awarded. In the case of this property, ignore the fact that whether or not it is fronting US 1. I think we can all agree it's not fronting US 1. Therefore, you're allowed one home. There is a home there. How can you allocate more? Thank you.
Okay, Marnie, I think Van said
I just want to clarify a couple things. We do have a definition of frontage in our code. It's very clear what it is. Also, there was a resolution, I'm trying to find it right now, in December of 2023 for the allocation of the awards. The end of fourth quarter 2023, the last day was December 29th of 2023.
Okay, Van.
When this was approved, I'm talking about the Windley Key properties, it was approved for affordable housing. It was approved for affordable housing by Ty Harris, who was the planning director at the time, who's the one that okayed this, and I think that was an error. I was sitting on the LPA at the time, and I said I thought it was an error because it wasn't fronting US 1. It was fronting the old road. And you know, fronting, you can be as creative as you want to, but it's not on the highway. It's not on US 1. It's just, it's plain as the nose on your face. It's just not on US 1. It should never have been done to begin with. And the fact that Mr. Gregg went back to a house, two slabs that were there from 1940 that were blown away in Hurricane Donna, and use this as a basis to get his zoning and flum changed is ridiculous. I mean, but that's how we've been doing the code, and that's how we've been doing the LDRs. And I want to point out again that at one time, not too long ago, we had a planning and developmental services director named Dan Galizio, who was changing the code, who was taking out the gray areas in the LDRs and was doing a very good job at it. Whereas some people on the council and in the building development community of Alamorada did not like that. They liked it the way it was, where they could slip and slide through the code which had, loopholes, and you can find loopholes, you can make loopholes. Loopholes are being made right now because you're trying to say that it's fronting on US 1. It's not fronting on US 1. And the one that's over by Buddy, I'd like to hear what Buddy has to say, because Buddy has a history of observing that duplex, quote unquote. And I've heard him testify in this room that it's never been a duplex. I mean, 2 sets of families might live in there, but that doesn't necessarily make it a duplex. And it's it's being changed for the financial benefit of Mr. Gregg. And I just don't think that that's what sitting in a council chamber chair as a councilman should represent. I think he should be wanting to uphold the code, uphold the land development regulations, and support the law. Thank you.
All right, Marty, any other public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, public comment is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, would I have an opportunity to address some of the statements made at the public comment? Would you entertain that? One thing that Sue Miller said was that, if I heard her right, in essence, that this property's density is single family. If I remember right, in the comp plan for residential medium flume, it's 1 or 2. So it does allow duplexes. And we can verify that if that's important for you. Secondly, I don't think Van would stand up there and purposely lie about things, but he's a little older than me, and my memory's bad, so his couldn't be much better. And as I get older, I tend to remember things differently. Sometimes I can remember things that haven't even happened yet. So what I can tell you, in my way I remember it, is I never brought this in front of the LPA. I'm not quite sure what he was referring to. And Ty Harris did not approve that. I think he initially denied that, and that's why I had to have the appeal. He may be confusing this with something else I've done, because allegedly I've done a lot. So I think it's important to, if we're going to take his word for things, to trust but verify. I don't know why I am always the target and the bullseye for these things. I think the real question for the council is, do you want to have more affordable housing or not? And I mean, from me, apparently not, and that's okay. But there's an opportunity to have that here. I discovered a way I can do this financially by using an existing building. There's no other way to build affordable housing that makes sense financially unless you get money from someone else, or a gift, or a grant, or some other little trick. So this is my little trick, is to take an old building and make it a new one. Same footprint. It's in essence, if you look at the plans that I submitted for the remodel that the Vice Mayor referenced earlier, and the plans that I submitted for this, they're nearly identical. So that's how I got to this point. So I don't know what else I can say. I can, I'm not going to keep rowing upstream, but this shouldn't be about me. This should be about affordable housing. I would like to ask the village attorney if he happens to have an opinion and could weigh in on this, that could one way or the other guide the council, guide me, guide the public on, the fronting issue, because it is an undefined term in our code. There is another word that uses fronting. It's a frontage, I think, is what it says, is in the code, but fronting is not. And this is a thing that judges and lawyers deal with every day. If it's not exactly defined, you have to find ways to figure that out. And so I went to the council and got an answer. I would like to remind you of one other thing. You were with us that night, Buddy. You and I were sitting in that audience duking it out as neighbors, and we're still friends, and I'm proud of that. But Carl Bursa was the planning officer, or planning technician, whatever his title was, planner, that presented the case to the council that resulted in my denial. And after the hurricane, he's the one I applied to put the fence back up, and I showed him the property record card from the property appraiser's office that called it a duplex. And he's the one that approved the permit that said duplex on there. He agreed to that. So I think I've asked as many times as I can to get this sorted out. This is about as transparent as I can think of making it. I don't think anyone else but me would have to go through these levels of scrutiny and under the microscope and with an attitude that what is he doing, what is he sneaking in there this time? I followed everything by the law. I've paid thousands of dollars in fees to go through the process and applications, and it's done to the T every time, and anyone can ask for it and read it. I have most of it right here under my elbow if you want to take a look at it now. So I'm done. Thanks for listening.
So Mark, just to clarify real quick, when Van brought that up about the one by Hog Heaven, you got 2 B passes.
I had to go, so I withdrew my claim that there were 2 house foundations there that would support that. I talked to the staff. I mean, they pointed out some things to me that I had not seen until we got close to the hearing, and I said, okay, you're right, I'm out. I'll pull that out. But the other part about fronting on US 1, I left in there. And so that was what the council approved. Paradoxically, when I finally did receive my B-Pass allocations, one for each lot at different meetings, I got my building permit, I went in to pay my fees. Paradoxically, they gave me a credit for the square footage that I demolished on those old foundations. So they considered that to be existing square footage that I didn't have to pay any impact fees for that. So in one sense, they recognized them, but in the other, they didn't. I keep getting screwed around and scrutinized and denied simply because I follow the rules. And I've had it. I'm done.
Okay. Well, I'll say my piece real quick. Okay. Okay, John. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead, John.
Yeah, well, I think there were 2 questions. One is about the definition of fronting. The definition in our code is a frontage. So it's a similar word, but it's not in terms of asking if there is a definition of fronting in the code. No, it's a frontage. In terms of the interpretation of that provision, that lies with the planning director. It's the planning director's interpretation. Authority is given to her, and I think she's prepared, obviously, a memorandum for council laying that out. But that authority really rests with the planning director in terms of the interpretation of that.
Okay. All right, so Mark, just as you just brought up, I came here to the meeting. I was asked by 2 council people to come to the meeting that night. It was January 26th of 2017, and I did say that you and Linda were a friend of mine. I came here, you had Don Horton represent you, and I just spoke of what I knew Mr. Cotton, owning that. And at that point, I mean, it wasn't ever a duplex until Cotton, bought it, and he made that room for his workers to sleep in. Because Chris Sante even, said to me when he came later to the co-op for an Aqueduct board meeting, he says, I called Jackie Hampson, and she said, she told him exactly what I had said at the podium that night. So, and I do remember that night extremely well, that it was, they did turn you down that night. It was Jim Mooney voted against it, Cheryl Meads did, and Mike Forrester. And so they determined it wasn't, because I remember explicitly that Chris Sante wanted to give you 2 affordables and 2 market rates, and Roger spoke up, village attorney at the time, and said, this isn't about whether it's whether you get any market rates or affordables. It was about whether it was a duplex or not. So anyways, yeah, I'm just giving the public that because I have lived there since 1961. Our families owned the house since 61. And I mean, I remember Joe Getz and living with his 2 kids there in the very back, Billy and Bobby. And anyways, and
I've called as the code requires, and each time I've applied for things, I've called to have the then sitting building official come over and make an inspection and render an opinion about what it is. And the first one was Jerry Albertson, I think, and there is an email letter in the file that says it's a duplex. He said it was a duplex. I had Sheila come over and look at it, and she said it's a duplex. So when I go to apply for a building permit, I need to know, am I applying for a single family or for a duplex? But each time I ask here, I get conflicting responses. So all I want is to be treated fairly, and I'm not getting that warm fuzzy so far on this. And if the village wants affordable housing, I'm prepared to go forward with that. And if you don't, I'm fine. I'll go get a boat or something.
I didn't know that the village did both of them, but if it's, you put on that permit to get your fence put up.
I have a permit that says that's a duplex from the village after that appeal.
That's right, because Irma was after.
That's right, from the man who prosecuted that case during the appeal. That's what I'm telling you. The same guy that presented the case against me in the appeal later agreed that it was a duplex and gave me a permit saying so.
Roger, right? Is that?
No, Carl Bursa.
Oh, Carl.
Carl he was the senior planner. So if that's wrong, I don't know what's right.
Henry, do you want to say anything?
Yeah. First of all, how important is it to confront the old road versus US 1? Is this problem hinging on that allocation?
Yeah, the code to have, well, I'll let Jennifer chime in. She's the interpreter, but the answer is yes.
In order to get the affordable allocations, the property has to front on US 1, so the answer is yes.
Okay. You know the legality of the old road?
I specifically.
Is it recognized by the
I believe it's a
state?
village. No, I believe it's a.
Is it recognized by the state?
The old road? No, I do believe it's not.
Well,
Like, I believe it's a state, a village road, a village-owned road.
okay. Well, you stand corrected.
Okay, I accept that.
And I'll tell you why I draw that conclusion. The old road is a boundary road recognized by the state of Florida. And the idea of whether this property is confronted with the old road versus US 1, US 1 is not a part of this. US 1 could have been a quarter of a mile away from the old road. And in that particular case, we would be talking about the old road. Now, how does the old road get involved with this particular situation? What is the legality of that? Has it ever appeared when a property owner has to exceed his property line and go across the old road to, say, US 1 or another road or whatever? In many cases, that's prohibited. The old road is a boundary road recognized by the state of Florida, and whatever comes on the other side is immaterial. It's not part of the conclusion. And I'll tell you why and how. If you have a liquor license confronting the old road, you cannot cross that road and still have that liquor license in effect. It's been proven time and time over in Monroe County, and I'll give you some examples. One example is what is called the Key Largo Inn in Key Largo. The license was on one side of the road, and then there was a building on the other side of the road. The state came and prosecuted that particular hotel. More in here that you can recognize. Not Indy's Inn. What's the property owned by Victor? Sunset Inn. Thank you. Sunset Inn originally, that property included the island
On the bay.
on the bay. Legally, that license could not be used on that island, and it was used many, many times for specific events. That is crossing the old secondary road. You couldn't do that. Just two examples. There was a third in my mind, but right now it doesn't come up. So my position at this particular point is the US 1 doesn't enter into my decision. It stops at the old road for that particular reason. It is recognized by the state of Florida as a boundary road in many, many cases, but the only one that I'm familiar with, because I had not a lot of liquor license, but I had a few liquor licenses in the county, and I always knew what they obtained for as far as usage. So to me, the old road, it stops there. So that's my position, and that's what it's all about.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Jennifer, if one so chooses, if we just, what Henry just said, if we take the old road out of the equation or the highway thing, is it legal? Or, I mean, does a person that owns a property have a right to apply for affordable permits to build on a market rate? Because I'm confused, Mark, a little bit here, you know? So
In this zoning district, if the property does not front on US 1, you cannot build affordable housing.
Oh, if it doesn't
Correct.
front on US 1.
You cannot build affordable housing in this zoning district.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, this isn't against you, Mark, and I know you think it is, but this really has to do about making our codes and our rules for everybody, not pick and choose where it goes. And to me, maybe we should look at changing where affordable housing can go. Instead of taking a decision from one piece of property and moving it to another and saying it's the same, maybe we should fix where affordable housing can go. And that way it would be fair to everybody and not pick and choose, well, this can move over here and this can move over there. That's what I have a problem with. It has nothing to do with you. You just, you take things way too personal. I mean, you do, but maybe it's the code itself that maybe we should say there can be, look at the ability to put affordables on the old road, and that would fix everything and not just cherry pick problems and solutions. That's how I feel.
Okay, so Jennifer, help me understand, because when I looked at buying that property myself, they told me that Cheryl Shafari told me that I could put 12 affordable units where Mark had his key lime trees. So I'm confused, okay? I'm really confused right here, and it had nothing to do with the highway.
I can't speak to why Cheryl Shafari would have told you that. I was not here in that situation.
Okay, up to 12 is what she said, up to 12.
I wasn't here. I don't have anything from her. I can go back and see if we have, did you have it in writing from her or?
Okay. No, I went to do some due diligence before, because I didn't really want it, but I would have had to buy the whole piece, such as Mark did.
Yeah.
So, but on the Coral, the property that runs along Coral, and then first of all, my property where the greenhouse is now was zoned suburban commercial ever since zoning came into existence. That property was zoned residential, and Mr. Cotton tried to change it, and it got shot down. But what I'm just saying is it was residential, and I was told I could build up to 12 units. So, the reason I'm saying that, because what Sharon just brought up, that I don't think this is about Mark. I just think that what this is that it's piece by piece, and we're letting, people have different pieces of property, and they can do different things. So I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but.
Yeah, we need to fix it.
And that's what Sharon's saying, we need to fix that. Okay. Elizabeth, do you have anything else you would like to add, please?
So I just think that we're all in agreement that we want and need affordable housing. Great. And I think we're also in agreement that here we are with a need to fix this understanding of what, of what frontage means, because again, the old road is a very unique element of our community. And so if we don't pull out this designation and attach this decision to this property, I want that opportunity to say, yes, we understand that this definition of old road is because this property actually does just sit in front of DOT, that median strip, nothing's going to be built there. I get it. Yes, let's do affordable housing on this piece of property, but I want something more formalized for within our code. And maybe Jennifer can speak to that. I mean, you're going to make this decision 100 times. What it speaks to is, I mean, we've all mentioned it. What happened? I mean, there's a bigger issue here that needs to be addressed. And Jennifer, do you see that? Are you seeing that in the decisions that you foresee making? And can you help us understand how that can be fixed outside of this particular decision, or actually along with this decision that we're being asked to make?
Is your question specific to properties fronting US 1 versus the old road, or just inconsistencies in the code in general?
Well, actually, I mean, I think we've given that direction to, I think we've given the direction to take a look at the comp plan. I know that has been given. I know we've been in a lot of turmoil, and I don't think that process has been started. But do you anticipate, just on this particular issue, do you anticipate this issue of how are we dealing with this ambiguity of frontage? Do you anticipate that coming to you again? I mean, there are a lot of other properties that are in this similar situation. So are we now saying that, are you now agreeing, will you always interpret the code in this way? Or does it need to actually be codified, like actually be put into our code with real language?
I'm happy to work with John to come up with some language. I think John was just scribbling some potential language that we could put into the code to do that. I'm not sure how many properties this would affect, because the interpretation that I read and the appeal that was done by the council, and I think it was 2019, all speak to the median strip between Old Road and Overseas being, not a buildable piece of property, the size of it. And so, that's a very specific, situation. So I think, I'd have to do more research on how many pieces of property that would affect in the whole strip of US 1. To give you a more accurate answer on if I see it being a problem. That being said, these are our last two, quote, regular affordable allocations that we have. The only other allocations we have coming at this time would be the 300. And, a property like this wouldn't necessarily qualify for those unless, there was an on-site, property manager, and there were some other things, that they would have to do to meet our land development regulations to qualify for those 300. So not sure that it's a pressing need moving forward because we don't have the allocations to give, but John and I are happy to look at some additional language if that's what the council wishes.
Can I ask a question? I'm hearing something that I like to hear things in a way that can make everyone happy. So this sounds like the beginnings of a conversation where a possibility exists that this matter gets tabled, or you can deny it, and there's direction to the staff to clarify what frontage means as it relates to fronting, excuse me, thank you. What fronting means in this context as it deals with a property that has a piece of the old highway but nothing else in between. Is that, if you would like to do that, that would be, I think, fair to me.
I personally like that idea because I like that idea. And I think it's necessary because yes, I'll just say that. I think it's necessary. And if if that works for you, Mark, then I would love to table it. It's not, I don't think it's a big leap for our planning department to put that language together either. I don't think this delays things too much.
Well, I think that would provide the clarity and the certainty that I've heard is lacking or apparently lacking, and it would give the staff some time to analyze how many lots that could be affected by this. And spoiler alert, it's 6, and some of them are not buildable. But I think, I mean, it's not a, it's like that other thing we looked at where only 5 lots or 5 permits were there. So, and this gives an opportunity to refine that to a level that's comfortable for the council. So,
Can I ask a question just in terms of for clarification? So we're looking for a potential code change or a code cleanup, we might want to call it, either defining the term fronting, or if there's another mechanism to deal with this scenario that we're talking about where you have something with an old road address, but you have an unbuildable strip of land between the old road and US 1. Is that what you all are looking for, is a potential code change to come back?
You guys with,
I am.
And the reason I ask that is because what I would recommend then, if you all are going to table it, what I would recommend is that it would be a motion to continue this item, and I would say probably at least until June, because obviously we have to bring this to the LPA, and then we'd have to have 2 readings for an ordinance, potential ordinance change, and then would have to get confirmation from Commerce or approval from Commerce on that as well. So that way it gives it as much time, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we can continue it, like I said, at least June, maybe July, but then that way we can hold this item in abeyance until that time. Jennifer can probably chime in in terms of if that's an okay time period for that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, as long as you get to legal on the old road.
Okay, and then Sharon, you're okay with that? Okay, Mark, you're okay with that?
I'm not voting, but
I understand.
as the applicant, I'm grateful for you considering that. It's fair.
John, here's my thing is, there's other properties too that if we do this, and then we're going to have other people coming in and saying, hey, you set a precedent, so why aren't you letting me do it? So we need to make our code to be clear and precise. That.
Yeah, I jotted some notes down to myself and for myself and Jennifer and I with Rob. We'll get together and we can bring something back with an eye, I would think, towards April to get this thing moving. I mean, assuming we can get it that quickly, but to get this done as quickly as possible to bring it back for your all consideration. Understanding we have to take the first step of going to the LPA, obviously.
Okay. We're all in agreement then?
Yeah, I would just ask that there be a motion, so there's a formal motion to continue this item to, did you want to do June or July, or?
You want to make that motion?
No.
Okay. I mean, we can,
I'm going to be on vacation for your July meeting, so I won't be present, so.
you want to?
I guess we'll do June, or we can do August, it's either one.
Either June or August, whichever one you're comfortable with, and if we can't make the June, we would obviously have to come back. But I would just do a motion to continue this item until, and you can specify what month you all are comfortable with.
Okay. Elizabeth, do you want to make a motion, or Henry, or?
Mr. Mayor?
What? Excuse me.
Can I make a rebuttal of something Mr. Griggs said?
Public comments closed.
Okay, yeah.
This isn't public comment, sir. This is a rebuttal.
Okay. Hey, Van, he said public comments closed. It's.
I differ with what he says, because it's not public comment. He's said something about my memory, and I'm entitled to rebut it. And if you won't let me do that, then that's not kosher. I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Quick, what is your opinion, please?
I mean, the public has specified times to comment. It's just during public comment. So when public comment is closed, it's closed.
He named me by name. He named me by name. He brought out and said that my memory was faulty. Well, I'm not going to drop it.
Obviously, there's general public comment is available, obviously, at any time at the next meeting as well. So, I mean, there are opportunities to address it for the public.
Point of order. Could I ask that the public comment be reopened and for this gentleman to make a comment?
You could make a motion to do that. It would be subject, obviously, to the will of the council.
I understand that, so for the sake of form, I'll make that motion.
Can,
To reopen public comment just for 1 minute for this gentleman over here.
Okay, Elizabeth, did you hear that? What's your opinion?
I did hear it, and look, this is a business meeting, and this is not this is devolving into a personal issues of a personal nature, and that needs to be handled outside of the meeting. I respect everyone's opinions, but I would just request that we move the meeting along, and the two gentlemen can take the personal issues and air that outside of this meeting, if we could, please, with all due respect. I'd just like to move the meeting along.
Just to be clear, if you were to reopen it, it would be reopening public comment, not for one specific individual, but it would be reopening it. Others could speak.
So lack of a second, the motion failed.
So we still need a motion on the motion on the potential continuance.
Okay.
This is of tab B.
So I'll move. I'd like to move to continue tab B until after the planning department can bring forward a resolution regarding the nature of the term frontage as it relates to affordable housing.
Okay, fronting, huh? Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Marnie, we have a motion and a second. John, you want to read that to us one more time? What it is, what she just said?
Yeah, it was a motion to continue tab B until after the staff has brought forward a potential ordinance change or a potential code change by way of ordinance for the council's consideration and potential approval.
Okay, all right. Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal,
Yes.
and Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. We're going to move on to tab C.
Tab C is an ordinance of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, amending Chapter 30 Land Development Regulations, Article 4 Administrative Procedures, Division 2 Development Review Process, Section 30-212 of the Village Code to create a review for the imposition of certain conditions, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Jennifer?
Actually, yeah, this one's for me.
Okay, for you?
Yeah, it's when there are certain types of development, sometimes there are conditions that are required. I'll use the example of if you're going to put in, say, like a strip mall, and you need to a requirement is to have a traffic lane put in. That there are arguments that can be made that if a developer believes they don't serve a public purpose, or they don't have a nexus to a legitimate public purpose, or they're not proportionate, that they can allegedly be exactions that they could then have the right or the ability to attempt to sue over, to try to alleviate themselves of those exactions, or to obtain some sort of monetary judgment related to that. As I spoke with one of my takings attorneys just to see if there were any ways to try to benefit the village, or to additional safeguards to provide. And one of the suggestions that she had is to have a process by which, almost like an appeal process to the village council, if they believe that there is a condition that is placed upon their development that they believe is not for further legitimate public purpose, or is not proportionate, that they could then appeal that to the village council and present their argument to the village council as to why they do not believe that it should be there. The reason why I thought that this might be a good idea is, number one, it creates an additional step for any developer or any property owner who might be thinking about suing the village over something, over a condition. It provides an additional step for them to go through, and by providing that step, it frankly gives us a kind of peek behind the curtain as to what their arguments might be in the litigation, and that way we can consider that in terms of whether or not that is a condition that that the village wants to continue to impose or to support. By doing that, it potentially provides the village with the benefit of not having to go through litigation, which would alleviate some costs in defending a condition. So I'm just looking at ways to try to best set up the village in ways that I think can save the village money, save the village time, and give us an additional step for a developer to go through if they want to challenge anything that we might bring forward as a condition. So that's what I brought forward for your consideration. It wouldn't change the right of a developer, obviously, to sue if the council decided, no, we do want to continue with this imposed condition. But like I said, it will require an additional step to go through. And actually, there were some suggestions that when I kind of thought about it over the weekend, there was some suggested language if the council is interested in this that I would like to include in. I think it's already implied in there that if you don't go through this process, that you are impliedly conceding to the condition, but I think it doesn't hurt. I mentioned this to some of you individually. It doesn't hurt to include that explicitly in the language. So if the council is interested in something like this, I would ask that I be able to amend that a little bit for second reading to explicitly state that as well.
Okay, council?
I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I know John has tried to explain this to me in a way that would make it make sense, but I do not. I don't like the idea of this body or the next council body being in charge of overruling decisions that our planning department has made, or the way we do this all the time, I realize, but this is sort of codifying the idea that that prior to being sued, we come to the council, and depending on who's sitting on the council and how and what the project is, it brings in an arbitrary, somewhat arbitrary decision-making process, even though I know we'll be given full directions, or, our council the next one. So I'm going to vote no for this. I don't like it. Primarily because at this time, I think we have a lot of improvement to do with I think we've talked multiple times about tightening our comp plan and sort of revisiting some of our code, and I think we could bring this back after we do that. But I don't like the idea of the council being an intermediary between our planning department and a developer who's mad, or a homeowner who's mad about the way our code reads. So no, I'm going to say no to this. And again, sorry, John, if I'm just not catching on to what you're trying to tell me, but
Thank you,
that's my
Elizabeth. All right, so let's open public comment now for this item, tab C. Any public comment, Marnie?
Just fans signed up at this point.
Okay.
Van Cadenhead. This underlines what I said before about cleaning up the code and cleaning up the land development regulations, because we've had, the LPA had to cancel an entire meeting because it wasn't advertised properly. At the last meeting, we had to pull the Sojourn property from discussion because a whole room full of people were here to discuss it, but it wasn't advertised properly. I don't think our planning department is ready for prime time. And I would really like to give the manager a chance to ease into this, examine it, and make his recommendations on the state of the LDRs and the code, and allow him to put his knowledge of municipal government into this, because I fully agree with Elizabeth. I mean, you're just adding another layer of, John wants to look behind the scenes and see what the argument's going to be for the lawsuit. Well, that's what a lawyer would say. Of course you do. But if you have a clear-cut code and LDRs are unchallengeable because they're set in black and white, and you won't change them from case to case, which has been the case, then we don't need this. And if you do feel you do need this, I would ask that you would kick the can down the road and allow them to examine it on a little closer and see what they can do to shore up the problem. Because I don't think this ordinance, this resolution, is going to be solving anything. I think it's going to further confuse the issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Marnie, anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay, public comment is now closed. Council, any further discussion?
I'd like to weigh in on this a little bit, and I share Elizabeth's concerns about this in the sense that, there is an opportunity for whoever's sitting in these chairs to make an adjustment. But I think we have to recognize that this is allowing it to happen before a lawsuit occurs. We do the same thing in a shade session once the lawsuit has already been filed. I participate, in the world of real estate permitting and so forth, we all hear about the taking. And a taking is where somebody claims they can't use their property. We've taken away almost all or all beneficial use or economic ability to get economic benefit from it. And that happens, and that's one standard, that's one legal procedure. Then Florida is unique, and Mr. Cole is going to learn how pro-property rights Florida is. We have the Burt-Harris Act, and that's a situation where there hasn't been a full-blown taking, but there's been a government restriction or limitation such that it has a significant impact. I think it's, John can maybe help me with that phrase, in the inordinate burden or something like that is in the...
Inordinately burdens your reasonable investment-backed expectation.
Right. Whatever that means, and I don't know if the judges know what that phrase means, it's in the statute, but it's less than a taking. They have a right to send over notices and convene, meetings and force us to sit down and talk about it, very, very much like what this is doing. So, again, I share Elizabeth's concern about, whoever sits here gets to do what they want, but they get to do it anyway in a couple of different ways. And so, with that in mind, I like this for the reason that it does afford us an opportunity before we spend a lot of money on legal fees for one last time to sit down and hash it out. And as a former certified mediator, judges love for you to sit down and talk about it. They don't want to see you in court in a fight. So this, I think, is very beneficial to the public. It's a tax saving, it's a legal fee saving thing that only postpones a meeting that can happen later if we don't pass that. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Henry? Nothing? No. Okay.
So I would move to approve it.
Okay, so there's a motion. How about a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Marnie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mark Gregg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney?
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin?
No.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal?
Yes.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, John, so we are on to D. Quasi-judicial.
Tab D would normally be a quasi-judicial. It is a quasi-judicial. Normally, I would read the quasi-judicial statement, but it's actually a request from the planning department because council tasked the planning department to come back. Well, I don't want to steal Jennifer's thunder again. I will pass it over to her.
Doing a great job.
I just mentioned I won't read the normal quasi-judicial unless you all decide you want to hear it in full.
Okay. Jennifer?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Council. Again, Jennifer DeBobrian, Planning Director. As you may recall, back in September 21st, 2023, this item, Administrative Appeal 222 Biscayne Boulevard, was before you for an after-the-fact construction of a tiki hut within the required 10-foot setback. At that time, the Council continued the item till this evening and asked staff to investigate possible solutions to the issue of the pre-existing non-conforming setback encroachments. Due to staffing issues over the last 6 months and the amount of work facing our department, staff has not been able to do as much research on the issues as we would like. We have had some conversations with the applicant's counsel, and we have done a little bit of research, but we would like to continue that conversation with them and do more research and come back with a overarching solution for the council as requested. If you would still like us to proceed in this manner, we would ask for about another 2 to 3, leaning on the 3-month side, to complete that and provide you with the recommendation.
Okay, council, we have any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I didn't read the resolution title. If I can just do that for the record.
Okay.
It's a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada Village Islands, Florida, considering administrative appeal number PLVAR 20230083, filed by Joanne M. Pereira, Esquire, agent on behalf of Frederick Schmid and Darcy Parker, appellants, relating to Director of Planning's notice of intent to deny an administrative variance for an after-the-fact tiki hut constructed within the required 10-foot setback from mean high water line for property located at 222 Biscayne Boulevard, having real estate number 00394489-008400 on Lower Matacumbe Key, Isla Mirada, Village of Islands, Florida, as legally described herein, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Okay. Looks like here is that, would the applicant like to speak? Come on up.
Well, wait, let me, if we're going to be taking any discussion from the applicant other than we're going to need to read the quasi-judicial statement then, if it's going to be anything more than just a motion to approve the continuance. So let me read that statement.
I'm doing what I'm following.
Yeah.
Well, I would move to approve the continuance if there's a second, and then we can let her speak if that shortcuts things.
I'll second
okay.
too.
Yeah, because then it's just on the procedural motion as opposed to the quasi-judicial.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I move to approve the continuance.
Said second, did she?
Yeah, and Elizabeth seconded
Did you
it.
say something there?
Something in my ear.
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, so Mark made a motion, and you seconded it. Marnie, call the roll, please. Can you sit, ma'am, can you hold tight?
Wait, no, it was, he was doing that to allow the applicant to speak because it would just be on the continuance motion, not on the substance of the resolution or the appeal.
Okay.
So their public comment can be permitted on the continuance motion, if you would like. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't the roll get called first?
Yeah, but do we need to call the roll first and get this over and then let her speak?
Well, then the motion would be dealt with. If you want to hear from her, this was a mechanism to do it. You would.
And we can hold off on voting then.
Yeah, it's just, the motion's still pending, and yes, you can hear from her.
Okay, you come on forward.
All right, thank you, everyone. I don't have any issue with the continuance. I would ask, though, that like our fines start accruing as of tomorrow. So I would request that we get approval from the magistrate to extend it. It was done 6 months. The last time we were here, they extended it 6 months. And so we would like to extend it again, but this time have it be open-ended, because every time we do these, we incur additional attorney's fees. So we would ask that it be an open-ended until this matter is resolved, and to the magistrate. And so one thing I would just like to say, since I have my couple minutes up here, I heard that they were going to be...
If we're going to get into substance, I need to read the quasi-judicial item, and she would need to be sworn in. Because then you're getting into the quasi-judicial record. So I don't know what she's going to say, but if it's anything more than just talking about the continuance, we absolutely have to read the quasi-judicial statement, and she would need to be sworn in. So I can do that if that's what the applicant would like. But I mean, this is really a continuance motion, and there's not usually public comment on procedural continuances, but I understand, but this was done for that purpose. But if we're going to go beyond that, we need to comply with the quasi-judicial rules.
What we would like to do, what's the favor?
I think we understand what the lady's concern is, that she needs some more time and she wants us to help her out so she doesn't incur additional attorney fees. Based upon our discussions at the last meeting, I think we're all like-minded on that. I would not be in favor of hearing this tonight and having a quasi-judicial decision because, it's asking for a variance when a variance is not really in the works here. And we're going to try a legislative solution that's beneficial to the village as a whole. So if we could stay on that track, and I don't want to cut her off if she wants us to open this up, but I don't think it's to her advantage. And her lawyer isn't here for that, so that's not a good idea. So.
Yeah, and John, if we do that, Elizabeth, her motion, if we go to quasi-judicial, it's not going to.
Yeah, well, Elizabeth can still second the motion and vote on it because it's procedural, but if we open up the quasi-judicial, it would be opened up not just for her, but obviously anybody who might want to speak if they're sworn in. But yeah, if it's anything beyond what we're talking about, we need to go into the quasi-judicial mode.
Do we have anything else? I mean, just continuing is what we're only going to speak about.
We know what you want. We want to help
I did a lot
out.
of work this weekend, and I wanted to share that.
Your lawyer isn't here, and he or she may need to be there for your protection or benefit. You never know what's going to happen if you want to open it for the quasi-judicial.
I did tell your attorney that we were going to ask for a continuation. I don't know if she let you know that.
No, she did know
Okay.
that. But I mean, I remember Elizabeth asking last time, how big of a problem is this? And I have
Again, if we're going to get into any of this, we absolutely, I cannot stress it enough, we absolutely have to get into the quasi-judicial procedures. And so if we're getting into anything, I need to do that now.
Okay.
We're concerned about the magistrate.
Okay, I'm going to just read the quasi-judicial, and we will swear everybody in, and we will have the full quasi-judicial, because I can't. I get that they want to speak, that they've prepared.
Or John, can we just stop now?
Yeah, we can stop them,
Can we agree to stop now?
and just proceed with the procedural motion.
Can we just stop now? Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion, Marnie, on the floor in a second.
Can I just, if you want to just amend your motion to address their concerns, the fines don't start accruing until April 18th, and that's when the next magistrate hearing is. I was planning to bring it before them anyway, so if you want to make your last motion, when you continued it to this night, you asked the magistrate to toll the fines and toll everything until tonight or till the April 18th, so we could do that again if you.
I would amend my motion to add the provision for tolling the fines that are ongoing for code enforcement.
I'm going to second that. Super.
Okay, so Marnie, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Mark Gregg.
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin.
Yes.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
What was the date?
I heard you say something.
April 18th, is that right?
No, the date you continued it to.
Well, I thought you knew.
I asked for 3 months. So.
How much did you ask for?
3 months.
3 months. Yes, that's what I meant.
Let's just.
Can we do it again?
Let's do it again.
I move to extend this or to continue this for 3 months from tonight and to toll the running of the fines through code enforcement. Wait.
Yeah, I second it.
All right, so Marnie, we have a motion and a second.
Stand by, she's calculating the date.
We're looking at when the June meeting is, so that. The June meeting is either June 11th or, well, the land use stuff is June 13th, so.
So I would continue that to June 13th
5:30.
at 5:30 p.m. in this very room. Be here or be square.
All right, Elizabeth, do you second that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, so now can we, Marnie, please call the roll, please?
Councilmember Mark Gregg.
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Henry Rosenthal,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney,
Yes.
and Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Okay, John, are we, I think that
That's
was it
everything.
because we're not doing E through H, correct? So
That's everything.
that's everything, council?
Move to adjourn. Oh, sorry, Henry.
I move.
Okay.
Go home.
Second, Henry.